Hey y'all, I forgot, I need my AirPods for this. I'll be right back. I'm out of breath because I ran to get my AirPods. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even know if this has sound. I don't even know, but I'm gonna put these in anyways. So somebody sent me this video. I'm gonna have to like really scoot over for this, or it might just not even be in frame. I don't really know. Maybe you'll just hear my voice. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make this the full screen because it is a little bit hard to see and I feel like I'm screaming. It is a little bit hard to see, but I'm gonna point it out for you. Maybe I'll even put like an arrow on the screen so you know where to look. I don't know. So you're just gonna hear my voice while I'm playing this. So they sent me this clip from their Ring camera, and in the background, you can see a figure walking towards the second car in the driveway, so the car closest to the street. You have to look pretty closely. It's pretty hard to see. I definitely did not see it the first time I watched it. I thought they were talking about this like speck that flew past the camera, but it's not. It's not. There's literally a person, a figure walking to the car. I'll put like arrows and stuff so you know where to look at the beginning of that because it is really hard to see, but once you see it, it is so clear. It's crazy. And the only thing they said with that was that this was caught in my Ring around 10:30 on Friday, February 11th. Watch the figure disappear into the car. They didn't include a story or anything like that, so I don't have any more to read, but I really wanted to show you that because I saw that on the subreddit this morning and I was like, I have to show them. This video is sponsored by Keen. Keen provides access to vetted psychics and spiritual advisors. They can provide guidance and insight on life's challenges, clarity in love, relationships, career, and even more. Keen is also one of the most affordable ways to get an instant psychic reading by a professional anytime, 24/7. There is always somebody online and you can easily schedule with your advisor. As a new Keen customer, you will get your first 10 minutes for only $1.99. Pricing then depends on which advisor you choose, but they're backed with a satisfaction guarantee. To sign up for Keen, all you have to do is go onto the website and fill out a brief survey. This will then match you with different psychics and spiritual advisors that fit your needs. And to make it even better, each week, Keen sends its users discounts on readings. This again makes it one of the most affordable ways to receive multiple psychic readings. And if you're a current Keen user, make sure you check your email for that discount. If you want to try out Keen, you can use my code. I will have it linked down below. Again, you will get your first 10 minutes for only $1.99. I truly love Keen because I'm the type of person where I never know if I'm making the right choices for myself and I never know if I'm on the right path. And I'm not going to go into too much detail with my experiences with the spiritual advisors on Keen because it's very personal to me, but it is very comforting to know that you are on the right path, you are moving in the right direction, and you are doing the right things for yourself. I am back and I have more of your paranormal stories that I'm very scared to read today. I have one that seems absolutely insane. This first story is called The Bradley House, and this story reads a little bit like a no-sleep story, but I'm almost positive that this really happened because they say at the very end, thank you for listening to me, I'm sorry for the length of the story, I thought the backstory was necessary. So I am like 99% sure this is a real paranormal story, but it sounds a lot like they wrote it to sound like a fictional story. I don't know how to describe it. You'll see once I start reading, it sounds very like mature and professional. That's all I mean by that. Not like it sounds fake, whatever. Like I don't read the stories that sound fake, but I'm pretty sure I'm like, I don't know how to feel. I'm just trying to preface this. They said, I always wanted something paranormal to happen to me. It always seemed so exciting and thrilling. We bit off more than we can chew with the Bradley House. Trigger warning, drug abuse, and depression. And then they put in parentheses, I would love for this to be in a video. They need to know the truth. I've used a fake profile, but with everything I'm about to say, it almost feels useless. It will know I've been speaking about it and will surely visit me in my sleep again. My family moved into a large, open plan, 2-bathroom, 3-bedroom, 2,000 square foot house when I was 13. It has 13-foot vaulted ceilings and fancy hardwood flooring. Only the best for my materialistic father. The house had a bonus room, as the realtor described it. It was the only room upstairs. Honestly, it was hardly a room. It looked like a hallway with a door closing it off from the stairs landing. Right above the garage, it sat as a sort of storage/playroom for the previous owner's children. My older brother was 20 at the time and picked that room to live in on the side of the house with our parents' room. I picked one of the 2 bedrooms on the other side of the house, across from the kitchen and living room. No one said anything about what the previous tenant had experienced in the house before we moved in. At school, after we moved in, some classmates came to me and said, wow, you moved into the Bradley house. Have you seen it yet? Of course, I was confused and say I didn't know what they were talking about. The ghost of the Bradley house. It's haunted. They continued. Every family goes through tragedy after tragedy until the family is torn apart. I didn't pay much attention. I should have. I thought to myself, oh, it's a silly little urban legend from my little hometown. Just a scary story with no basis. I continued to think that until the big fight. My parents were having problems and I was completely oblivious. I'd been prescribed the strongest painkillers possible for a facial surgery I had at 15 years old. I got very addicted to them, and the school had found out. My mom took them from my room after the school called, forced me to quit them cold turkey. Everyone knew that was dangerous. Hell, my mom even worked for doctors the past 20 years. That really jacked with my brain and how it's wired. I shut down and became depressed. I stayed away from home as much as possible, choosing instead to spend my time with my high school boyfriend. It was no surprise that in my absence, I failed to notice my parents drifting apart. My mom had gotten sick and moved into the bedroom near mine, leaving my dad in the largest bedroom alone. They mentioned in passing that it was because they snored and kept each other awake. I've never had a good relationship with either of them, so I never came to them just to hang out or talk about things that bothered me. I was sitting in the living room watching a movie by myself and eating soup, I think it was. The bedroom door to my mom's room exploded open and she sprinted to grab her purse. I kept asking what happened, but she ignored me. She went to the garage, got in her car, and left. I turned to my dad, who was standing in the bedroom doorway, staring after her with no expression. He only looked at me, went to his bedroom, shut the door, also ignoring me. I tried calling Mom, but she wouldn't pick up. My brother had begun staying at his girlfriend's house at this point. The next day I woke up and drove myself to school and went about business as usual. At this point, I couldn't get a hold of either parent. I went home after school to an empty house. I was all by myself. I didn't get an answer from anyone. I sat in the bathtub and had a panic attack so bad I thought I might be dying. I had never had one before. I woke up the next day, business as usual. School, then home for a TV dinner. Dad finally messaged me saying he would be gone for a while, staying at the airplane hangar he worked at. Mom eventually came home but wouldn't say why she left or where she went. I moved into the upstairs bedroom my brother had left. On my 16th birthday, I went outside to get in my car and go to school. My mom was standing by my car waiting for me, smoking a cigarette. "Your dad and I are getting a divorce. Happy birthday," she said. She thumped the cigarette butt across the driveway and went inside, leaving me to go to school with that. I lied at my therapy sessions and said I was fine and doing better. My therapist was a nun who worked for my mom's job, so she told my mom everything I said, even if I didn't want her to. That's fucked. The therapist's solution was to pray it all away. As someone who was not religious, that stung. I lied on all the tests and got out of therapy, still with this brain that had severely disordered thoughts. Mom moved away and Dad moved back into the house with me. He brought his girlfriend immediately to live with us. Unsurprisingly, that was the reason for the divorce. She was my mom's best friend. The hurt ran deep. She worked nights in a city far away, so she would sometimes be gone for a few days at a time, sleeping at the hospital between shifts. I didn't have to talk to her much, thank goodness too. We still don't get along to this day. My dad is a pilot. When I was 16, almost 17, I got a call from my brother about 5 minutes before school let out. We never talked unless it was in person. I just stared at my phone ringing on the desk, a sinking feeling in my stomach. The second the bell rang, I threw my backpack off and sprinted to my car. I'm not a runner. This is very impressive for me. I made it there before everyone else and called my brother. He wouldn't explain anything, he just told me to come straight home. I tore through the town at 60 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone, running stop signs knowing this was urgent. I roared up our driveway. Dad had a plane crash and had been taken to the ICU upstate. They wouldn't let me back to see him. His girlfriend denied my brother and I entry to see him, stating that she was going to be the primary visitor. They made me leave. I had to go home alone and wait. This was the catalyst for the most demonic activity ever unleashed into my world. Eventually, Dad came home. He lost some teeth and had some wicked scars, but he did make a very nice recovery, fairly quickly for someone who was slammed to the ground at about 150 miles per hour. He even found another job upstate flying again, only a few weeks later. Tough bastard. This meant he stayed upstate at his job a few days at a time, his girlfriend doing the same at her job. Effectively, this left me to raise myself at 16 or 17. I began to hear strange things behind me in the dark. I would hear barefoot footsteps on the kitchen tile behind me. There was never anything I could see. I would hear cabinets opening and drawers sliding in the kitchen when I was upstairs. This only increased as my paranoia grew. For days at a time during the summer, I would stay barricaded in the house, feeling like it didn't want me to leave. Depression still had a firm grip on me, so I thought maybe I was imagining it in my busted brain patterns. Once, I was watching TV in the living room. The TV muted itself. The laptop my dad kept on a desk in the entryway to the front door began playing something. It was late at night, and once again, I was alone. The dark computer was blaring a children's choir version of Amazing Grace. It wouldn't stop. I couldn't make it stop. It finally went silent as I called my dad. I asked how long he had left it on and if the screen was broken since it hadn't been on. He told me the whole computer hadn't been working for a month or so. I got off the phone with him and sat on the couch, knowing he didn't believe me. A glass crashed behind me in the kitchen sink. I saw the reflection of something in the sink in the still muted TV. I went upstairs to lay in bed under the protection of covers. Things like this happened every day I was alone. I would hear knocking from outside my second floor window. I could feel breath on my neck while making dinner in the kitchen. I would hear something on the other side of the shower curtain while showering. In my room, there was a small crawl space to the attic. It was just a 2-foot by 2-foot hole cut into the wall of my room close to the floor. My uncle had made a small door with a gold rotating latch for it, keeping it closed. I started to have night terrors of a rake-like creature crawling out of the door. It would slowly swing open and I would be frozen in my bed, only able to watch as it crawled to me, putting its face next to mine. It was so skeletal, with the proportions of a very tall man. Its face had no mouth, no nose, only black pits for eyes. It would visit me every night. Friends would say they felt uncomfortable in my room. No matter where I was in the house, awake or in a dream, I knew it could find me. It felt like it was always right behind me, making those barefoot footsteps just barely out of sync with mine. Sometimes in my room, the heavy wooden door with the latch would rattle slightly. Never once did I open it, the fear of what may be looking back at me. I spiraled for a long time. I was still mostly alone in the house until right after I turned 18, plagued every night with sleep paralysis and screaming night terrors. My mind was cracking. I had convinced myself I was entirely making it up. I had taken duct tape and taped the little door closed, even if to just make the rattling stop. I lived in fear that my dad had a hidden brain injury from the crash. I didn't see him much, but sometimes he would come home in the middle of the night and I would see him in the morning while I was getting ready for school. One night, every disembodied footstep and whisper in the dark felt closer than ever. The owner of the footsteps could reach out and touch me. I went to bed and once again had a nightmare of the creature crawling its way into bed to stare at me, limbs cracking and bending the wrong way. I woke up from this nightmare to a sound. I sat up and listened in the darkened room. I heard my dad yelling for me. He was yelling my name from the bottom of the stairs, seemingly begging for help. My mind flashed to a possible hidden brain injury from the crash. I threw the blanket off of me and sprinted downstairs, ready to help him. I stopped halfway down the stairs. There was something in me begging me not to go to the bottom of the stairs. I listened and heard nothing. The bottom of the stairs was dark, darker than it should have been, as there was a street light in the backyard that comes through the porch window. The darkness was so deep at the foot of the stairs it almost looked solid. I backed up the stairs and into my room. I picked up the phone and I called my dad. I had obviously woken him up from sleep. I asked if he was home. He said no. His girlfriend wasn't home either. I was alone. My eyes drifted to the door as I hung up the call. My heart nearly stopped from fear. The duct tape was behind the door. The door had been opened, closed, and relatched. I calmly grabbed my keys and phone and took a deep breath. I bolted down the stairs and jumped over the back of the couch. I ran out the front door and got in my car. I dug deep tire marks into the front yard from gunning it out of there. I never slept there again. I would sooner sleep in my car if I couldn't stay at a friend's house. I still feel it sometimes, right behind me in a dark hallway. Sometimes I will hear a knock from a window. Alone at work, I'll hear footsteps for a moment staying in stride with mine. It's never been as bad as it was in that house, but I still can't shake it. I was recently telling my mom this story, and when I got to the part of hearing my name being called by Dad, she said, "You heard your name being called, didn't you?" I asked how she knew that, and she said, "I heard my dad calling me too." It was comforting at first, as he had just passed, but then I heard my mom's voice calling me too. She's still alive. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry for the length of the story. I thought the backstory was necessary. That, I genuinely think that is one of the craziest stories I've ever read, because it wasn't just like weird, creepy things happening and dishes falling and cabinets opening. It's like, it was messing with your life. Like all these horrible, horrible, tragic things happening that it's like, people warned you about. They're like, you're living in this house and it's going to destroy your family. Like these terrible things, it's going to be tragedy after tragedy. And it was. I just like, that blows my mind. Like, how is it that powerful? How? I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, and this next story says, something sinister. Hi, I have multiple paranormal stories, but this is still happening to this day. It started around 2 years ago. I was laying on my bed at night. My dad was downstairs and there was no one else in our house. I started hearing footsteps outside my door, so being the dumb person I am, I opened the door, knowing my dad was still downstairs. No one was there. I closed the door and then the heavy breathing started. Very heavy breathing. I heard my dad coming up the stairs and the breathing and footsteps stopped. Nothing happened for 1.5 years. I was home alone. My granddad was on his way to pick me up. He was going to be there in like 20 minutes. My dog started barking, so I paused the TV so I could hear. Everything was silent for a few seconds before there were footsteps, banging, and voices. It was not my neighbors. They weren't home. My dad was like 2 hours away at work and my granddad wasn't there yet. I immediately started crying. It was terrifying. I knew it wasn't a human because I was making noises downstairs and they would have either come down or left, you know? I rang my granddad and he said he was going to be there in another 10 minutes. I started recording and I still have the video. Ignore my breathing as I was crying and ignore me telling my dog to shut up. She's a tiny pug, she isn't scary. If anything, her barking is putting me in more danger. And then I'm gonna play the video for you right now. I've already watched it, so I'm not gonna like react to it because I've already seen it, so my reaction would be like fake. So I'm gonna play it for you right now. So scary, so scary. The footsteps, that's like my biggest fear. You guys know this. Like watching all the scary TikToks, I hate the sound of footsteps. Like paranormal footsteps. I can't do it, I cannot do it. And there's more. Eventually it stopped. My granddad picked me up and we couldn't find out what caused it. Nothing happened for around 3 to 4 days. I was sat in the hallway talking to my dad when I felt a weird like ping in my arm. I looked and there was a strange mark. You can't see it that well in here, but it looked like a scar in the shape of a smiley face. It stayed like that for 2 weeks and just disappeared. Nothing happened between the 14th of January until the 5th of February. I was sat downstairs and started hearing noises. It was like 11 p.m., so I decided to go to bed. I fell asleep and started dreaming. When I was 3, my stepmom passed away. On April 28th of this year, it will be 10 years since she passed. She visited me in a dream. She told me she was protecting me and my dad, everything was going to be okay, and that me and my dad are safe. I woke up to a pressure on my chest, a very painful pressure. I checked my phone and it was 3:30 a.m. I did some research on this, and the thing that comes up most is something evil and sinister trying to ruin that happy, safe state for me, which is terrifying to say the least. Again, nothing happened until today, the 11th of February. I'm home alone with my dog until 4 p.m. It's 3:30 right now. My dog started begging to go into the garden, so I opened the door and let her out. My dog normally goes out and does what she needs to do, then comes in when I call her. She's amazing with recall. She went out, barked a bit, then came in. She did that 3 times before finally doing her business, but this time she wouldn't come back when I was calling her. Finally, she came in. I struggled to lock my back door because it's old and rusty. It wasn't a key lock, it was a little bar that you would push across to shut it. After about 30 minutes, me and my dog were sat upstairs and I heard a noise in the kitchen. I went down and the back door was wide open. It was bolted shut when we went upstairs, and it cannot just open by itself. I triple locked it and I've sat in my room since. Other things that haven't been so significant but still happening, my stairs have a bad feeling. Anytime I'm on the stairs, I feel like I'm going to be sick. The front of our bath is currently not attached as our pipes are being fixed, and every now and then I'll walk past and there will be a face under the bath. It doesn't just look like a face, it is a face. There's also little noises throughout the house, but that's not that scary. The only thing that scares me about the situation is the feeling. I've had so many paranormal experiences, and normally yes, you feel a bit scared, but I don't feel like I'm in danger. I feel like I'm in danger now. Like I'm constantly being watched. This isn't something nice. This is something evil or sinister. Something that adds to this theory of mine is that my granddad is a reverend. He works in a church, a very religious man. Whenever he walks into the house, the energy changes. I feel safer, even though the air feels angrier, if that makes sense. I'm waiting on some sage, and if that doesn't work, I'm gonna see if my granddad can do anything. I'm open for advice on what to do. I don't have any advice for you, and I'm really sorry. Like, I'm useless. I'm useless. I never know what to do in these situations. I would just leave. I would move out. Like, I don't know. This is the last story I'm gonna read. It says, My Dad's Visit from the Grave. Hey Courtney, my name's Melissa, and I would love to share with you the story of my dad giving me signs from the afterlife. I would like to preface a couple of things. First, I consider myself a skeptical believer. I believe in spirits, but I don't believe every story so easily. And secondly, I've tried to find rational reasons for my experiences, but can't seem to find any. So here we go. I was 17 when my dad passed away. He was my best friend, and I was absolutely crushed. He had been sick for a while, so it was seemingly inevitable, but it hadn't made it any easier. The house that we lived in had been my home since birth, and it felt so empty and frozen in the time when he passed. Nothing paranormal ever happened in that house, not even a weird feeling, ever. Okay, I'm kind of confused because I read a little bit of the story, and I think she talks about something that happened in this house, so I'm a little bit confused by that, but it's okay. Except for maybe feeling like you were being chased up the basement stairs. Anyway, my sister, 25 and pregnant at the time, and I were the only ones living in the house at the time. My mom hadn't lived there for a few years as they were divorced. So, my sister lived in the basement and my room was upstairs. I didn't see her a lot. The day after my dad passed, my first experience happened. I fell asleep on the couch the night prior, just too exhausted from that day. Suddenly, I wake up from a dead sleep to the loud sound of static. I sat up and followed the sound straight to the door of his bedroom. I slowly open the door and hear the noise coming from under his bed. At this point, I'm like, hell nah. I'm not gonna be the first one to die in this scary movie. So I'm working up the courage to look. I reach under the bed and pull out a black bag with walkie-talkies inside. The static is so incredibly loud at this point. I'm stunned. I haven't seen or heard of these walkie-talkies for at least 7 years. They were really old ones that we used for camping all the time when I was younger. There's no way the batteries were still good, and we most definitely hadn't been camping in years. I turn the walkie-talkie off and inspect the batteries. They look so old, but I shrug it off and try and turn the walkie-talkie back on to see if it was just being weird. It doesn't turn on. A chill runs up my spine and I shove them back under the bed. I try to shrug it off as maybe a weird coincidence, but I was very weirded out. See, that's where I'm confused, because you said nothing happened in that house, but did that happen in that house, or was this a different house? Like, I don't know. A couple days go by and it's the day of his funeral. I'm sitting in my bedroom, staring off into space, preparing myself for this emotional night. Suddenly I hear, "I love you." Without hesitation, I say, "I love you more." At first I thought maybe my sister had come upstairs and I hadn't heard her. So I get up and I yell to my sister and ask if she had said something to me. She yells from the basement, "No, but I think my water just broke." There's an airplane going by, so I'm gonna be quiet for a little bit. The voice had prompted me to get up, and her water had broke at that moment. Weird. And weirdly enough, my dad passed away on my sister's due date, and then my sister went into labor right before we went to his funeral. A couple nights later, I'm hanging out with my best friend in the living room. My sister's in the basement with her newborn. Just us two. I tell her about the weird stuff that had happened. At this point, I'm piecing together that maybe those were his ways of telling us he was still here with us, looking over us. After a little bit, we get to go grab some snacks from the gas station. After we stand up, my best friend goes to grab her keys from the side table, and right before her hand touches her keys, a baby monitor on the side table flicks on. The little knob on the monitor turns, and the green light flashes on. The sound of static spews out of the monitor, and my best friend stands back up. I'm stunned. Now I'm not the only one who has experienced something. When she stands back up, she seems so calm, so I say, "Did you see?" She cuts me off and says, "I'm not trying to think about it." We book it to the door and head to the gas station. Now I know it's definitely not in my head. I was watching the whole time. She didn't even touch her keys yet, and she never touched the baby monitor, so I know she wasn't messing with me. I also knew she wouldn't try to pull a prank on me when I was going through a tough time. After that, the activity never happened again. I asked my sister if anything weird happened to her. She only had one experience, the day she brought my nephew home. The drawer of her dresser flew open and nothing happened after that. My dad definitely gave us signs that he was with us. It's comforting looking back, but at the time I was spooked. But he's the reason I now believe in the afterlife. I feel like I was living through a movie at that point in my life. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed reading my story. I love your channel and I'd shit my pants if you actually read my story. Well, put on a diaper, bitch. That was stupid. That was stupid. I keep like trying to make these jokes in my videos and they're just dumb. Whatever. I'm a dumb person, it's fine. I wanted to read that story because I feel like I don't read enough happy stories, happy paranormal stories, where it's like you're receiving signs from somebody you love kind of thing. I should read more of those because I really like them. They're very like, they make me like really happy. I don't know why. And it's always comforting to read a happy story. After the first story that I read and then the footsteps in the second story, it's kind of nice to come back around and read a happier story. I don't know. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other stories you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit link down below. And again, if you wanted to try out Keen, I will have my link in the description. You'll get your first 10 minutes for $1.99. But I love you guys. I'm gonna go. I will see you in the next one. Bye. I actually have something to ramble about. So I started volunteering at an animal shelter. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet on my channel. I don't think I have. I think I talked about like wanting another cat, but I never talked about volunteering. I don't know. So I started volunteering at an animal shelter. My first day was last Saturday. I don't know when this video is going up, so I don't know. But last weekend, last Saturday. I am now volunteering every Wednesday and Saturday. So every morning, every Wednesday and Saturday. And I'm really excited. But I'm really proud of myself because there were kittens and there were a lot of cats. Well, actually there weren't a lot of cats. There were like a couple adults and then like a couple kittens. There weren't that many cats, but I didn't bring one home. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't bring one home. And I don't plan on getting another cat. I really don't plan on it. I know I talked about this in my last video, but I really mean it. Like I really don't need another cat. And I'm proud of myself for not breaking and bringing one home, but I'm really excited because I get to play with cats and I don't know, I like just clean everything and then I interact with the cats and I socialize with them and I play with them and I don't know, it was so much fun. My cats are getting into some shit. At least I like to blame it on my cats. There could be a person in here, but I don't know. I just like to blame it on my cats. I'll go check it out after the video and then probably die. I really don't know what they're getting into. I really don't know. I'm gonna go check. I know I'm kind of freaked out. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh. a box, like an Amazon package that's sitting by the front door and it's opened. And he's playing with the box, but there's like stuff inside the box. So, okay, that's what the noise was. He's playing in a box. I don't know, I was freaked out. But yeah, so basically I go in and I clean the cat, like the community cat room, and then I interact with the cats and I play with them. That's like all I do. But I'm there for like a couple hours. It's not even a long time. It's like 2 hours. But it's a lot of fun and it gets me out of the house and it gives me a purpose, which I feel like I really needed a purpose. And so I'm really excited. I'm so excited. But my camera's gonna stop recording and I don't have anything else to say. So I'm gonna go. But I love you guys. See ya.